My dear chess friends, hello everyone. This is Master Viktor Neustroyev, and today we start our mastermind devoted to how to play Max Lange Attack with white pieces. So this time I slightly improved my internet, so there can be a delay, but I believe that the quality of the webinar or our mastermind today will be perfect. So please let me know, and if the sound and video quality is good, you can successfully hear me and you see the position. For those, well, I also kindly ask you to refresh the page in case if you were watching our webinar on TheChessWorld.com. I'm going to send you a message. So okay. Okay, fine. Looks like everything is working. So, and let me demonstrate what are we going to talk about today. If you remember, in our previous webinars, we were talking about pawns, how pawns are, how they determine future plans, how the pawn structure affect a future plan. And the webinar before, we were talking about Evans Gambit. So today I would like to talk about Max Lange Attack, and this is what can become, if not your primary repertoire, then you can at least play it from time to time, especially in blitz and rapid games, and I'm sure you can succeed with it. Okay, let's go back. Let me explain how Max Lange Attack happens. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop C4, and in this position, black. Well, in both cases, you are able to play Max Lange Attack. For example, if bishop c5 is play, you, for example, castle first, knight f6, and then continue with d4. The most popular move for black is e takes d4, which allows you to fully apply Max Lange Attack. Okay. Yeah. Well, of course, we should also analyze this move and this move. And before we start with e takes d4, which is considered to be the main line, however, not the most solid continuation, let's analyze a different move order. E4, E5, knight F3, knight C6, bishop C4, and let's talk about knight F6. If knight F6 is played, well, if you are my student, you can probably continue with knight g5 or d3. It's either a fried liver attack or Italian game with d3 move. Or you can play d4 and initiate Max Lange Attack. So d4, you're threatening the pawn on e5. That's why knight e4 doesn't deserve much attention. Well, actually, if knight e4, you can play better. You can capture there. Well, actually, that's fine. That's enough. And if they play d6, you can apply a tactical strike. What tactical strike I'm talking about? Can you please find it? So I'm looking at your comments at the moment. What do you think? What's the best continuation here? Bishop f7 is suggested by Milosh. Queen d5 by John. Well, I would agree with Milosh about bishop f7. If you play queen d5, not everything is so clear. For example, bishop e6, queen takes e4, and then d5 delivers a fork and you have to give up your bishop. Well, the number of pawns is still equal. However, bishop f7, king f7, queen d5, and that's fine. After bishop e6, you simply take one e4. So here you gain one pawn and you expose the enemy king. You are also going to play knight g5 if they make a mistake. So they have to play bishop e7 here, or h6. So bishop f7 is a better move. Let's go back. So that's why knight e4 is not a good idea in this case. The most common move is e takes d4. Well, I don't think this move deserves attention because after knight e5 you are threatening to take there as well as to take here on d4. And if you think that this move, well, this move actually saves the position. Does it? Yeah, it looks like it does. Okay, then I find another solution. Bishop f7, king takes f7, knight e5. Attacking the king, king goes somewhere, and then you simply capture on d4. In this position you also gain a pawn, and the enemy king cannot castle anymore. So d4, e takes d4 is the main move. This is something from Scotch game. And then you just castle. Because when you castle, they are most likely continue with bishop c5, and it leads to Max Lange Attack, to the main line, to the original version of Max Lange Attack. What else can be done? For example, knight e4. What do you think? How should we react on knight e4 move? Rook e1. Yes, it's rook e1. We may play rook e1, and now they have to defend this knight with f5 and d5. Well, I don't think f5 makes sense, but after, well, it exposes the king too much. After f5, you can continue with bishop g5. They block. What else? Take, then queen takes. And here you just continue with this move, attacking on e4. So d6 probably, but after bishop d5 you are able to capture on e4 and gain 2 pawns back, the one on the f5 one and the one on d4, after which you will be in a better position. d5 is a stronger move. However, what did we prepare for d5? Which tactical strike can we follow now? Okay, I'm looking at your comments. No suggestions, guys. What's going on? I think you can simply come up with a move. Knight takes d4. Well, Miller suggests knight takes d4. Well, it's a possible move, but you can play a better one. If knight d4, it's knight takes knight, and after queen takes d4, just simply bishop e6. And how would you continue in this case? Looks like black solved most of their problems. Let's go back. Okay, I see there are no more suggestions. Well, I can show you. It's just bishop takes d5. Bishop takes d5, and after queen takes d5, you may continue with knight c3, which is a double attack. This pawn on d4 is pinned, so they of course won't lose the queen, and they cannot capture on c3 with their knight, because the knight is pinned. They have to move the queen somewhere. And then knight e4. You are still down a pawn, but you have a strong attack instead. For example, bishop e6, knight eg5, attacking there and threatening with knight d4. So if, for example, if knight d8 is played, you play knight d4. So they have to castle and you gain the material back. If your opponent is strong enough to get to this position, well, it's fine. But this is where you are slightly better. So you are still slightly better. That's why you can simply play Max Lange Attack and don't be afraid that they may capture on d4. Yeah, they can capture on e4 with their knight. This is what I mean. So after knight e4, rook e1 is strong enough. That's why they most likely continue with bishop c5, after which you play e5, and then the Max Lange attack appears. Let's now go back to our previous analysis, and let me demonstrate the most common move order: bishop c5, castle, knight f6, and you play d4. Oh, wait a sec. No, we didn't analyze everything. Let's do this, knight f6 and d4. Okay, what if knight takes d4, which is actually a very common mistake, especially among club players. If this move is played, you can simply capture the pawn on e5, and then you are threatening with both. You're threatening to take on f7. Well, actually, right now you are threatening to take on f7 only. Another idea is bishop e3. If they continue with knight e6, you can capture that knight, and after the f pawn goes to e6, you continue with knight d3 and e5, trying to deliver a check on h5. For example, this, that. And here you can simply deliver a check to provoke h6. This is how you create weaknesses into the enemy camps. And queen h6, and they cannot castle. They have to play this move, after which you retreat to h3, for example, and it slows down black's development. Well, of course, castling is the most logical continuation here. And then the second idea, bishop e3, comes. Here, if they don't want to lose the material, they have to play knight e6, but they still lose. What would you play here? Okay, so for those who watch this Mastermind on Twitch, if if there is a if it's buffering, you can switch to YouTube. YouTube reports it works perfectly. I'll send you the link here in the chat. So YouTube tells there are no mistakes. So that's why I think that my connection is better. Well, actually, I checked my connection and it became stable. So that's why I decided it's time for us to continue our webinars. Okay, so after knight comes to e6, bishop e6 work, because this bishop on c5 is not protected. In case if they take, they just lose a piece. So that's why they have to capture on e3. But if that happens, instead of taking the bishop right away, you take on f7. Well, if king h8, you continue with bishop b3, threatening with a fork. So their bishop is hanging and you threaten with a fork. They have to retreat, you deliver a fork. That's fine. If, for example, they capture, then knight f7 works. You are taking the queen, and well, maybe this is the best option for them. But after king f7, you have e5 and you gain another piece. So it's a completely winning position. That's why instead they'd better take right away, and after f takes e3, move the king back. But I'm sure you understand that with extra exchange and one extra pawn, even if this pawn is doubled, white is completely winning here. So that's why when you play Max Lange Attack and d4 is played after knight d4, you win after, if you play knight takes e5. The strongest continuation for black in this position is bishop takes d4. However, this move is quite rare. How to deal with it? Well, take with our knight. And if they decide to capture with the pawn, we continue Max Lange Attack with e5, but this time with no knight on f3 and no bishop on c5, which of course favors white because bishop is better than a knight. Well, here d5 should be played according to the theory, because this move is terrible. After rook e1, there is nothing they can do to avoid material losses. So d5 has to be played, then you capture there, they capture there, and then you, then you play rook e1 or you take there. So this time, actually, the queen can move to h5. While there is no knight on f3, the queen can move to h5. This is another benefit. That's why after this move, you take with your knight, and they'd better capture with their knight, because if they take with the pawn, it's this. So they'd better capture with their knight. And then you still play quite a playable position with some initiative. Well, people say black has enough compensation for that initiative because they have extra pawn. But in practice, the games there more likely end in white's favor. Mm-hmm. So, after knight d4, what's your opinion how to continue? So guys, I'm looking at your suggestions. What would you play? And while you are thinking, I would like to announce something. Um, Here at chesslance.com, at our chess school, we decided to conduct group classes. And we are going to do a kind of a group class which covers a certain topic. It can be either a mastermind or it can be um, mm, well, it can be something else, another format, but it will be just a closed lesson using Zoom, no streaming, everything is private. So, and we are going to charge a small amount for that. Please let me know if you are interested in it and which topics would you like to learn and which amount would you like to pay. Uh, well, it won't be much money. We think the group will consist of 8 students, approximately 8 students, and there will be two 2 hours classes, and so the price will be something like $5 per hour, maybe even less. This is what we think is reasonable because we need to pay for our coach. Of course, so something like that. Tell me which topics you are interested if you were participating and if you and which amount you are ready to pay for that if you will attend it, if you are going to attend it. Well, it's better to say. Of course, we will announce it, and it depends on if the time of our lesson suits you, and if you are interested in the topic, then you will decide whether you wanna come to such a group class or not. But anyway, this is what is scheduled and is in our agenda. Okay, so no suggestions. Well, there is only one question. Who? Okay, knight c3 and knight c3. Also, John suggested f4. Okay, thank you, John. F4 is actually one of the best options here. And there is also a question about Max Lange, which country he was from. Well, good question. He was a German chess player and also a composer, a chess composer. Okay, so f4. Well, c3 knight goes back. What's the point of playing c3? You cannot develop your knight then. f4 seems to be a better move. You undermine the e5 square as well as the knight's position, so they have to continue with this move, after which you may take and play bishop to g5 with a strong pressure on f6. In the worst scenario, you just take on f6 and double their pawns and then keep attacking. But remember, you are a pawn down. Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. Okay. Let's say you approximately understand what you should do in case if knight d4 and bishop d4. Now let's continue with the main line, which is e takes d4, the most common move, after which of course you play e5. This is how you chase the knight away, and moving the knight to e4 or g4 doesn't seem to be a good idea. Okay, so let's continue. Well, how to play. Let me actually explain what's wrong with this move, like knight g4 or knight e4. Well, first of all, if knight g4 is played, you can play what? You can continue with bishop f4. This is the move I like. This move protects on e5, and then you are about to chase him away. Let me just demonstrate this option. Bishop f4. In my opinion, this is the best move. For example, they continue with castling. You play h3, and after knight h6, you can take and ruin their pawn structure. These two pawns now count as one, so that's why there is no material advantage for black. Yes, they are pawn up, but these pawns are located on the h file, so that is okay. c3, this is how you develop your knight, and then the knight just simply occupies the f6. If you are not sure if white is much better in this position, you may ask the engine, and it says that white is slightly better, but of course it's easy to play when you know what you should do and when you threaten the enemy king. So let's say knight e4, knight f6, queen c2, and queen then jumps to h7 to deliver a checkmate. That's the plan. Of course, there is no guarantee that everything will work like that, but at least you know how to play. Okay. So bishop f4 looks to be a good move. Their other option is to capture on f7 right away, which also deserves attention. After king takes f7, knight g5, and this knight is under the attack. King has to move. g8 is the best square, but he may also retreat there or there, doesn't matter. You take here, and there is only one move which allows black to get approximately equal position. Well, slightly worse position, I would say. What is this move? Who knows? Who knows? Okay, I'm checking your answers. No, by the way, guys, if you like the Mastermind, can you please like this YouTube video as well? Okay, Milosh suggests h6. Well, h6 to chase the knight away. Looks quite suspicious, actually. And then, for example, queen f3 can be played. And after h takes g5, queen takes d5, gaining a piece back. Well, I think this is where white is fine. g5 is a weakness, d4 is a weakness. So right now the number of pawns is equal, but if one of these two dies, white will be better. So not h6, but the move I'm talking about is d5. Let me check if anybody suggested it. d6 was suggested by Branko. Let me talk about d6 because yes, this move can be played. If d6 is played, you may continue with queen f3 and you're threatening with a check and the checkmate on f7. How to save? For example, this move doesn't work. Check. King goes there, and after f4 they are in trouble because if we take, this is a check, and if they move, it's a checkmate on f7. That's why here queen e8 only works. So again, they should play the best move. Take on d6, bishop takes d6, bishop d2. This move is played in order to bring the rook to e1. h6, rook e1, and well, they may take on h2, but if that happens, don't worry, you shouldn't do this. This is a bad idea. Then your king is under attack. They can play queen h5. After that, exchange queens. So play king f1. Let their queen be still hanging, and you are threatening with queen b3. For example, queen b3, king goes there, knight e6. They have to take it, otherwise discovered attack will be applied. And in this position, just queen b7, you are threatening the rook. So they take there. Well, blocking with the queen shouldn't work. In such a case, you exchange queens and play g3 to trap this bishop. So that's why after king f7 you just take, and they have to play properly. If your opponent is able to find this variation with black pieces, he is Magnus Carlsen, or maybe Hikaru Nakamura, or Alexander Grishchuk at least. Well, it's a long line where white is still better. Well, they take here, but white is still better because of the king weakness and the bishop being trapped on h2. This is a forced variation that I want you to learn if you decide to play Max Lange Attack, because d6 is quite common. The best move is d5, of course. Then queen g3. Queen f3 doesn't make sense. We're not threatening. With a checkmate, and with a check on d5. I mean, and if queen f3, it's knight e5 can be played. So queen takes g3, h6, knight goes back, and this position is playable for both. You play c3, intending to play that move at b4, and if they take, it's fine. So let's calculate the number of pawns. It's equal. The king cannot castle, so it has to go to h7, but after knight h4, it's hard to find a good spot for the bishop. So this is a playable position. The engine thinks it's approximately equal, and any mistake of black may lead to a huge advantage for white here. Okay, so knight g4 doesn't bring anything good. Knight e4 is a mistake. If this move is played, it's simply queen e2, and the knight is trapped. d5, take, and there is a pin. So f5, you can continue with knight d2, you can continue with bishop g5, and then knight d2. It's up to you, but I'm 100% sure you know how to deal with it. For example, rook a e1, and you take on e4. Even if you exchange queens, the number of pawns is equal, but this endgame is much in your favor. Okay, let's go back, and let's stick to the main line, which is d5. So d5 here is the main line, e takes f6, d takes c4, and this is where white has a choice. White has two options. White can capture on g7, or they can deliver a check on e1. Both lines are playable, and if you decide to learn Max Lange Attack, I kindly recommend you to learn both these options. Okay, so let me show you something. Okay, just a sec, let me share the screen. Okay, recently a course devoted to Max Lange Attack is published in the Chess World Academy. Here it is, as well as my other course about Scandinavian defense. And you can also find how to play Evans Gambit here. These are good courses for club players up to maybe 21 or 2200 federated players. So from, let's say, 1200 to 22. You can also find a lot of other helpful courses, so this is where you can really improve your opening repertoire as well as your middle game play. And the access to the academy is very cheap. So here on this page, you just click, well, you can scroll down and you see it's $14.95, but when you click, or it can be $150 per year, you can just click here, for example, and when during a checkout you type my name here, Victor, apply coupon code and get a discount of $5, so it's less than $10 per month. So that's why if you want to join it, I'll share this link with you, as well as the coupon code. Okay, fine, let's continue. Here I'm going to demonstrate rook e1 line, which is probably not the best, but still a good move, which allows white to obtain a strong initiative. F takes g7 you can learn in the course. If I demonstrate everything, it would take 2 hours. It's not a part of our plan. Maybe even more than 2 hours. So you check, and there are two options: moving the king and blocking with the bishop. If they decide to move the king, bishop g5. The idea is obvious. We threaten to take and open a discovered attack. How can black play here? Well, they can move the queen, but if they move the queen, they lose the game right away in just 3-4 moves. What do you think? How white should continue in this position? So I'm looking for your comments, guys. So it seems to me there are no suggestions. Queen e2 by album. Queen e2. Well, no, queen e2. Well, you're not threatening with anything after queen e2. It's hard for black to find the move, but, well, maybe d3 can be played. Or maybe h6. So here you play bishop h6. What a sneaky move. Why? Well, you create a pin and they have to take. Knight e5 doesn't make sense. And after that, the h6 pawn cannot be protected. So simply queen d2 or queen c1, and you take it on the next move. So the only way to not lose the game right away is to sacrifice pieces like that, to block the file and let the king to move to e6, because queen h6, king g8, queen g7 is a mate. So even if they play this move to cover the g7 square, you still take, but then continue with rook e8. So you see, you can defeat your opponent if he doesn't know how exactly to play and would continue with bishop h6. It's almost impossible to find bishop h6, especially if you're playing with black pieces here. So queen d7 is a mistake. Let's talk about g takes f6. Check, king goes there, and knight c3, developing the knight. This knight cannot be taken. In such a case, you just exchange queens and deliver a checkmate on e8. If bishop g4, it's queen d2. Well, they may take, but you continue with queen f4 and you threaten with queen g3. Well, if the bishop moves away, you threaten with queen g3. For example, bishop h5, queen f5, a double attack, so you are able to gain this bishop back and still continue the attack. In case if, let's say, queen d7 here, you continue with queen f6, and the only way to stop is to play this move, but this is a complete blunder. After queen g5, they have to block and get a checkmate on g7. So you see, white doesn't sacrifice more than one pawn in all these variations, but the attack is extremely strong. Bishop e6 is the other option. Well, and you take advantage of the bishop being on e6 by playing knight g5. Who can tell me what's wrong with queen f6 move? This is a terrible mistake. However, by the first glance, it's a logical move. Here, knight bd2 with knight e4, or when? Well, it seems to be too slow. Moreover, what if they take on g5? You play this move, but they bring the queen back to e7, protecting on c5. You sacrifice the knight. It's a lot, actually. Okay, yeah. Now John suggests a proper move. It's knight takes e6, pawn takes e6, and queen h5. You simply take that bishop on c5 for free, and of course white wins. So knight g5, queen d5, a logical move with the idea to castle queenside. Well, not queen d7 because of the same reason, right? Queen h5. So the only way to stop it's queen d5, and your opponent should find this move. Even if he knows how to play against Max Lange Attack, he should find this move. Then same move knight c3 with the idea to chase the queen away. Queen has to move, it goes there only. Well, it doesn't make sense to go there. Yeah, because of knight b5 at least, or knight e4. It's up to you. Well, here, for example, if queen d5, knight c7, and if queen d7, protecting here, it's the same story with knight e6 and queen to h5, which allows you to gain this bishop on c5. So queen e5 is the only move. Now knight c e4. Well, you intend to take there and then to take on e6. How they should play. For example, what if they continue with this move? What would you do? Now they are chasing our knight. What do you think is the best option? So queen d2 right away, or Miloš wanted to play this move earlier. Knight f7. Well, knight f7. When? In which position? Knight f7 and rook e6. You mean here knight takes c5, queen c5, and then rook e6. Rook e6, they take, then you suggest queen h5. Okay, let's make the moves on the board. So this move, and after queen c5, you suggest to take here with your rook, pawn takes, and then queen h5. But the problem is that there is a pin. So if they play king d8, of course, if they play king d8, it's knight f7. But if they play king d7, the king is able to get to b8, and then black ends up with a lot of extra material, with extra exchange actually. Queen e6, king b8. This is where black is fine. No, it's not this. So g takes f6. Well, knight f7. No, knight f7, king f7. No suggestions? Let me check all. g4. Okay, thank you, Miloš. That's right. It's g4. g4. What's the point of this move? To chase the queen away, because if queen g4, it's queen takes queen, and in this position, well, either this or that, gaining a minor piece for free. Well, knight f6 seems to be a better move. King f8 and knight g4. Because if they play rook g8, you simply replace your knight with a check to f6, and then just move the king. So g4 was a perfect move. However, they can move the queen to g6. However, in that case, they only lose a bishop on c5. They can move their queen to e5, but if that happens, knight f3, and the queen is trapped. Well, it's almost trapped. It may go to d5, but then you should understand this is just a fork, which allows you to gain the queen. Well, there are no other safe spots. Well, maybe this is an option. Well, if this move is played, you at least have knight f6, knight takes g4, or maybe knight f6 and then rook takes d5, which seems to be a better option. But it's up to you. Even if you take on c5, that won't be a mistake, because then you take the queen. Okay, fine. So g takes f6 is a mistake because of g4. The only option for black is to castle queenside. This is how they don't lose immediately, but you still continue with g4. And after queen e5, they need to save that bishop. Well, this time there is no pin. And in case if you play knight there, they can move the queen to d5. That's why here I wanted to take their bishop. Pawn takes, you take there. Well, the queen has to stay on e5. And in this position, bishop h6. This position now becomes unclear and quite dangerous, especially for black. The engine says white is slightly better here, so you at least obtain the advantage that you can later convert into something more, something better, probably a winning position or extra material. Well, right now there is a weakness on e6, you have a strong pawn on g7, and at the moment they cannot gain this pawn back. If speaking about a number of pawns, it's equal, 7 versus 7. But look how strong your position are. Well, if this pawn would be on g3 or g2, of course it would be in your favor, but even on g4 it's okay, because there is no attack through the g file. So this is what I wanted you to learn about Max Lange Attack, and as the last stage of our mastermind, I would like to demonstrate the game. There were two female players playing against each other. It was Ning Chang Hong with 2300, grandmaster, the strongest female grandmaster from India. And of course, you should understand that such a strong grandmaster, being over 2500, should learn how to play against Max Lange Attack. Well, yes, she knew probably, but then even she got confused. E5, D5, E takes F6, D takes C4, and Rook E1 was played. This time it was Bishop E6. So the line continued according to our main line, Queen D5, Knight C3, Queen F5. Well, here I suggest Knight C4, which is the best move. The white player instead played G4, which is the second strongest move. And after G4, the queen went to G6. Knight CE4. So almost the same. And for example, G takes F6, it's Knight E6, Knight takes C5. Of course, they didn't play this move. They continued with Bishop F8 because this bishop was important for them. Well, they'd better play this move. That was better. Let's look at this move, Bishop F8, that was played in the game. So it seems that somehow these pawns are going to be exchanged, and then the bishop will be activated through this diagonal and will be protecting on D4. Well, these are right thoughts, but the problem is that nobody asks white to capture on G7 right away. White continued with F4, threatening with F5. G takes F6, F5, queen goes to G7. The point is that if F takes, it's actually if F takes, it's what? Queen, castle, queen side? Because if F takes, then let's say pawn takes there, it's a losing position. For example, pawn takes F7, and if queen takes F7, it's Knight D6, gaining the queen and applying a discovered attack. That's why king takes, king has to take. But then you can just take on G5, or you can start with this move, because if king goes there, it's Knight F6. And if king goes there, it's Queen F5, and then a checkmate, like that. So castle queen side would be the only option. However, after that, you simply take on F7 and win the game. So here, Harika Dronavalli could be outplayed in just 16 moves. And if such a strong grandmaster doesn't know how to deal with Max Lange Attack, what about club players? They will lose much earlier. Your only task is to remember these lines, and you can learn them in case, well, you can learn some of them after watching this webinar, or you can enroll into that course that I've demonstrated and learn all of them and make Max Lange Attack as a part of your primary opening repertoire and play it not every time, but maybe in half of your games with E4, E5. Okay, so here the white player Ning Chung Hong played Knight takes F6. That was a mistake, but white still holds advantage. Queen takes F6, Knight takes E6, and now if pawn takes, Rook E6 gains the queen. This is what exactly happened in the game, after which it was easy for white to realize their material advantage. Let's decide whether there is a better move for black in this position. For example, bishop, well, the pawn is hanging on C7. And if you play king D8, knight takes E8, black may initiate. Let's go back. Maybe after rook G8 we can play a better move. And here the answer is yes, sure we can. What is the better move for white in this position? I want you to find it. Well, instead of rook g8, you suggest king d7. Yeah, we'll discuss it. Can you please tell me what white should do instead after rook g8 is played? Okay, thank you, Milosh. You are absolutely correct. Okay, so knight takes d4 is also suggested by John. Well, knight d4 doesn't seem to be a good move. They can block with the knight. But bishop g5 traps the queen. So the queen has no squares to escape except this one. Well, and if rook g5, it's knight g5, gaining the exchange because this is still a check. h8, it's just this, taking a piece, because they have to take it. And after bishop h6, they have to give up all their material. Let's go back. So bishop g5 could be a winning move. What about trapped? So that's why here Harika Dranavali took on e6 and decided to play without a queen. It's a queen for knight and rook. The game continued with this. Bishop f4. It's a very logical move because the white's task is to avoid complications, and the complication may appear in case if black decides h6 was played in the game. Queen f3. Well, they wanted to promote a pawn, but d1 equals queen doesn't work pretty well. So e7 is possible, but e7 rook d7 and the pawn is not promoted. In the game it was queen takes h7, double attacking these two pieces. And if, for example, d1, like it was played in the game, king g2, these two cannot be protected right away. So white exchanged their rook for a pawn and a bishop. Rook g7, queen h6, and kept their rook on their pawn on e6. No. Okay, this is where we can actually finish our analysis. After bishop h4, it's a completely winning position. Then e7 can be played. For example, rook goes there, then queen goes there, and after rook moves, it's just e7. For example, and this knight has to be sacrificed. Then there is there like almost. Actually, we can check her rating now. Let me share my screen. Let's check how strong she is. Harika Dranavali, Grandmaster, also a women Grandmaster, and her current rating is 25 and 7. So she is even stronger than some male Grandmasters. But she struggled with how to play again attack. At least you, after watching this webinar, you at least may practice with Max Lange Attack, and you are likely to get advantage. But if you want to learn it in more details, I kindly recommend you to get this course, Max Lange Attack for White, that I recently published in TheChessWorld.com Academy. And well, it's quite cheap. You can enroll into it here on this page by using my coupon code, which allows you to save $5 per month. So coupon code Victor, and it's even less than $10. So 2 cups of coffee, and you get this course and all other, including my Evans Gambit, which is also strong enough. Okay, do you have any questions? What do you think we should continue? I mean, what do you think should be the next topic of our webinar? What are your suggestions? So I'm checking your comments. Well, if everything is good, next Sunday maybe we'd better play a simul. What do you think is better, a simul or a blitz practice instead of a simul? So, oh, looks like YouTube started buffering, but it should be fine. So the internet is much better this time. And right now I'm in Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan. And in 2 weeks I'm moving to another city to the south, to Almaty, which is a larger city, and my wife is originally from Almaty, so we are going to relocate to Almaty finally. So I hope the internet will be better there, but actually, I'm quite disappointed with the quality of the internet here in Kazakhstan. It was much better in Russia. And, well, it's pretty cheap, but the quality is really poor. And I can't change the provider. I mean, this is the best provider I'm using now. Okay, guys, do you have any questions? Okay, so John suggests how to defeat certain gambits. Which gambits exactly? Ah, you mean we can start and talk about how to defeat, let's say, Smith-Morra gambit, how to defeat let's say, Evans. Well, Evans gambit cannot be defeated actually. The best black can achieve there is approximately equal position. What we can defeat, let's say, Win gambit with Sicilian, with some of the lines of Sicilian. What else? King's Gambit. Well, King's Gambit is in black favor. This is what we can talk about, how to defeat King's Gambit. I'm not quite familiar because I don't play e5 myself, but some of my students do play, and I demonstrated some lines for them. So yeah, probably I can explain how to defeat King's Gambit with black pieces. Okay, guys, if there are no more questions, we can finish for today. Okay, there is a question by Milish. Who will win, Nepo or Ding? Well, the match is not scheduled yet, and I hope that that Nepo will win. I prefer his playing style, and if you know, guys, on my website I published a course, Play Chess Like Nepo. Not only of his he is good in several aspects of chess. He has a lot of strong skills that we may learn from and we should also practice. So, for example, his opening preparation is fine. He can defeat his opponent starting from the first moves. He attacks really well, like nobody. I would say we can compare him to Garry Kasparov. His tactical vision is perfect. So right now, I'm 100% sure he is the second strongest chess player. His calculation is best, so he almost have no weaknesses. But of course, he is not as good as Magnus Carlsen. Well, here I demonstrate his techniques and how good he is defending, attacking, with strategic play, and also in end games. Well, you can find this link on my website. Well, and this is my website. No, tricks of chess, teachable.com. Well, I can share the link, but usually the link is in the description of this file. But okay, let me copy it. Okay, guys. So we can finish for today. Let's meet next week, and probably we will organize a simul. But let me think a little bit. Maybe I'll prepare something more exciting. Okay, fine. Thank you for attending my webinar, and hope to see everyone next.